Good morning again. It's really nice to be with you all from typically sunny Oakland, although it's still a little dark here. It's a little earlier than you guys, so I ask for a lot of grace with the hour. Um, Again, it's really nice to be back with you all and to see all your faces. It's been about 6 months now. So this talk is less talk and more workshop. And so all of you who are camera off, welcome to your morning surprise. As we looked at this theme of purpose, it seemed so much of my purpose has been discovered through this Creative Mornings community. And so it felt very apropos for me to do this talk, but also for it to be heavily based in connecting with one another and connecting with oneself. And so I'm really, my goal is to be more of the facilitator of our morning together. Also to try to see how we can leverage the assets of being digital rather than just seeing it as a nuisance. And so as you could see, one of the things that we're able to do with digital is we're in our own homes. And so we can look for objects and other things that bring us purpose, which we would not otherwise be able to do when we're in the room together. So as much as we can see strength and possibility in this new normal is a part of the goal of this morning. I also wanted to welcome everyone with some words that I receive most mornings by text from my mom. And that is, it's going to be okay. We will get through this. It's going to be okay. And I share that because I don't think I could hear that enough right now. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes that's the push I need in these mornings. And so I share it with you. So as Rachel mentioned, for those of you who don't know, I was formerly a co-host of Creative Mornings Asheville. And part of my role in that was to do our speaker selection and event curation. And something we heard nearly every time we extended an invitation to a speaker was that invitation and the related theme came at a really pivotal time in their own lives. And we heard that nearly with every single speaker, that for whatever reason, it really was the push that they needed, which included a sense of terror to move through something in their own life. And the same is true for me. So I appreciate the invitation and hope that our time together is meaningful in some way other than what happened before I started talking. So a little bit of context and stage setting. As Rachel mentioned, I moved to Oakland, California in October of last year. I'm from the Bay Area, and so this was a return home. And it was, it made sense for a lot of reasons, partly to be closer to my family. But I have also moved back to what's now pretty much the most expensive place in the country. And I accepted a new position here, a contract position. And that position, it dried up in March, beginning of March. And so it really, it started to not allow me to escape these bigger questions that many of us are facing right now. And so it seems appropriate to be having a conversation on purpose. And so, you know, with, I think, as many of us who've experienced any kind of loss, but particularly a loss that is associated with how we provide sustenance and shelter to ourselves and to those that we care about, there's a lot of fear and overwhelm that can come with that. But there's also in this pursuit of understanding for ourselves what's next, there's an excitement that emerges. And within that, there starts to be, for me at least, this tension But I do also want to just recognize that even despite the challenges that I'm facing and that many of us are facing in this time of COVID-19, I'm also extremely grateful for the privilege that I have, and that many of us who are able to join together digitally have, and that's the privilege of our health and shelter and food, and that we're surrounded by community. So I do want to name that because so many people right now, that's just not the case. But there is this deep sense of fear that I mean, I think is pretty universal at this moment, and I think that, you know, the power of this pandemic is so great in vastness in several regards. I mean, one is this total altered sense of time and priorities, and in some ways the spaciousness to be able to have our hair looking like this, and be in business meetings, but also, you know, to just not even know day to day. Our schedules are totally out the window, and with that comes all of the gamut of good and bad. But there's also the shared global experience that I think is extremely powerful, and with that comes both a shared sense of tragedy and grief and loss and fear, but it also comes this shared sense of possibility. And I know that I've experienced that with friends in Europe and Asia, that what other time in human history have we all been so connected digitally and also going through such a shared common experience? It's pretty phenomenal. So I offer that as being able to come together and reimagine what our future can look like. Perhaps that's one of these silver linings, and hopefully we're able to put the focus there and have that be really what emerges through this. So going back to this kind of the existential challenges that emerge when we have the pressures on us from whatever our state of work is, as well as fear around health, as well as all the pressures of the pandemic that I mentioned, it really creates a strong container for the existential questions. And for me, at least, there's a strong tension in this, and it's the tension of kind of the oh shit factor, of the panic in some regards around the process of trying to even approach these questions, which can seem larger than life, because they are, I guess. But particularly when we're in moments of shared fear, and then the tension being that there's also this beauty to being able to have the time and space for those of us that are healthy and relatively well, to answer these questions, and the tension of the only way through it is to really sit with it, and how hard that is right now. And there's so many distractions, and when, for me, sometimes, often I just want to be in fetal position on my couch and scrolling through social media, because what makes me feel worse than that? But in the moment, you know, we're all doing what we can to take care of ourselves, and so it really does create this tension, at least for me. And so that's what I wanted to explore this morning, and how we could create a container together to start to explore that. And I think this tension is or the importance of this inquiry is well articulated by our friend Deepak, because why wouldn't I pull out Deepak in my talk? When you want to inspire, go to those who already do. But you know, I've been recently sitting with a meditation series he's been doing, and he talks about the importance of discovering our true self, and expressing and sharing our unique gifts really is our path to happiness. So again, adding to this tension of the fear around doing so, but then seeing that it's actually the path forward into what we're wanting to create, or what I'm wanting to create. And so for me, this process has been extremely iterative, and it really goes back for a few years. But I've been forced into a different level of having to sit with it and answer it at this time, and a lot of that has come from this process of meaning making and trying to figure out what's next and really stumbling through that. And in a recent conversation with a friend who happens to be an executive headhunter, I was kind of talking through my resume and all these things, and he finally paused me and said, "Mike, I think this is the moment that you really need to get clear on your purpose." Um, and I, for whatever reason, perhaps because of his job, I was able to hear it, and so that's been my last month or so. And this invitation to do this talk came a little later than normal in terms of what the normal lead time is for speakers, and so but it felt like it was so apropos and timely with my own process. It really felt like what I needed to push me through. So really the rest of this morning, I wanted to engage all of us in creating a container for us to explore some of these questions for ourselves. And in doing so, using a strength-based approach. So often we look, it's so easy to look at these questions and think about what we're not good at, or the skills we really need to build because we know we're insufficient in them currently. And so what I would like to challenge us to is really looking at our strengths. What makes us shine? What makes us come alive? Both that we see within ourselves, but also that others see in us. And so this is a kind of a deep dive into a vast amount of inner work. But the idea is to provide a taste. I would encourage you, there'll be some prompts on the screen when it makes sense to take photos of those prompts with your phone so that you can sit with some of these questions after our time together. And then of course, this will be recorded, or this is being recorded, and it'll be available after today. But the process, just to kind of lay it out, is that we will go into a self-reflection, look at a peak moment for ourselves where we really came alive. We're not there yet, Rachel. And then what, as we go through a distillation process, how can we really capture the essence of that within one word? And then, so the power of sitting with ourselves and really diving in all those questions for oneself, but then a prompt that you can do on your own, which will be around, what do others reflect back to you? What are peak moments that others have seen in you, so that you can use that as another set of data and really creating a synthesis for yourself. And for me, I've used a resume to do that synthesis because I'm very pragmatic, and for me it was really helpful to use some kind of organizing document that I could take a vision that I created more in narrative form, but then really translate that and have to edit it down to something that I could communicate outwards for this community. And that could also look like a digital portfolio, or it could look like a website. But it may also look like a collage or whatever it is that your own expression of that synthesis is. But I think it is really important to be physically engaged in being able to distill that down into something that you can actually say to someone else, so that it forces that process of synthesis. So we are going to start with a visualization exercise. And for this, I'm going to recommend that you all have a pen and paper handy. And I would also just encourage you, as you go through this, if you have a nasty little voice like I have that always tells me I'm doing it wrong, regardless of what it is, I would encourage you to set that aside and believe that you're doing it right, and whatever is coming forward is what you're needing at this time. And before I go into it, I will share that that what came up for me in this was a Creative Mornings moment. And so you really know you're doing this right if your peak moment includes Rachel and Just kidding. But mine was around Forge Ahead, the community dinner party that we had together a few years ago, and the 200-person community dinner that really brought forward a lot of different voices in the community. And so go wherever your mind goes, and there will be some questions. I'm going to read this aloud to begin with, and then as you open your eyes, we'll have the prompt back up on the screen so you don't have to remember it. But if we all can kind of tune inwards, close our eyes as that's comfortable. If you have your screen off, you're right, we won't know if you're doing it. It's your loss. Okay, so I'm gonna invite everybody to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Our world, now more than ever, needs people who have come alive and are living into their best selves. Let's explore a time when you felt the most alive, when everything seemed to fall into place and flow, when you knew you were expressing your unique gifts in a perfect way. Time passed quickly, and the result of your work brought you the utmost satisfaction. So much, in fact, that you had no idea how you accomplished what you did so effortlessly and with so much enjoyment. What were you doing? Who were you with? What parts of you came alive? What skills were you using? So as you come out of that, give you a few minutes here to give that some thought, reflect on that, and then to jot down what's come up for you. You got a little extra time there because I couldn't get off mute. So welcome back. Um, thank you. So moving forward with that in mind, it's really helpful for me to go through the process of distillation. And so both in answering, in developing a peak moment experience through a prompt like this and through the distillation process, I would invite and give total permission that for me, I've had to do this multiple times over the last several years. And that really, it's just this last month where it really started to crystallize. But having it be a process is normal, and I didn't realize that. I always thought I was doing it wrong because it changed for me, or I felt like I couldn't quite get there in my first or second or fourth go at it. And just to give yourself that permission that this is some of our deepest exploration, and it is a process. And it's one that requires kindness to ourselves and patience and self-love. So as we really reflect on that moment, bringing that home into one word. So I would like to invite that you sit with that experience and start to reflect on what is one word that encapsulates the action that you were engaged in that moment. And so to give you my example, when thinking of the moment that came forward was the Forge Ahead dinner. The word that came to mind was convening. And that is a really important part for me of my expression of purpose. And so we've tried to make it a little easier, and we've given you a little bit of a Mad Lib style worksheet to work from. But if you reflect on what verb really encapsulates your experience, and then that same word, but without the suffix, is where the circle's at. So for me, it was convening. So therefore, in summary, I love to convene. So what's yours? Maybe about a minute. It's your 5-second mark. 5 more seconds. All right, so for me, I had to go through this one-word distillation process a couple times with the same experience. So I started with the word convening, but then when I looked at, well, what was underneath that? The word connection came up. That creating connection is really at the essence of why I'm convening. And if we had the time this morning, I would encourage us to go through this multiple times with the one word going, let's go beneath the surface on that. What's underneath that word? So I'd encourage you to do that yourself, because perhaps it's not what comes up first. Perhaps that was just the action, but that there's a deeper sense below that of really where your purpose lies. So again, as you're on your own, which we have plenty of time for, unless you're schooling your children, sit with that and see if something of value emerges. So as we carry that forward, and in the spirit of connection, we're going to do another quick breakout session. If technology works the way it's supposed to, you will be in the same group that you were in earlier in the morning. So hopefully there's a little familiarity there. And there's a couple discussion prompts. We are running short on time, so I'm gonna say that we shorten the breakout room time to 2 minutes. And so there's a couple prompts. And they're very simple. You may want to take a photo of this so that you can remember, but again, it's really simple. One is to share your one-word takeaway. And if you have time, depending on how many people are in your breakout group, share a little about any insights that came forward. Welcome back. So from there, we We thought it was going to flow a little more smoothly, but no good Creative Mornings happens without technical difficulties. Just when you're in person, often you don't notice them or see them. But now that everything is live and digital, you get to experience it with us. I'm going to encourage everybody to take out their phone and text to the phone number of 22333. So I'll put that, oh, here we go. There's a slide for it. 22333, text CMAVL449. And what that's gonna do is set us up for a word cloud where we can all then text our word into a platform, and we'll have a collective vision of possibility based on all of our words. So once you text CMAVL449 to the phone number of 22333, you should get a confirmation text back. And as soon as you get that confirmation text back, if you can text your one word back to that number. Now, what was supposed to happen is the word cloud was supposed to be seamlessly integrated into the presentation. But what's actually going to happen is that Rachel is going to take a screenshot of the word cloud as it's completed and share it back with us. So we won't see the results coming in live, but we will get a collective vision of possibility. So the goal here of creating this collective possibility statement is to really see together what can be possible when we're all living into our true purpose, the world that we can create together moving forward. And so it looks like a lot of us are on the same page around connection and connecting and community, communicating, not surprising with this group. So if we just take this in for a moment and take another breath and just absorb the possibility when we're all living into the lives that we really want. And as we transition into our kind of last moments together, there's another exercise that I wanted to share with you, not to do together, but to do on your own. And so it's, to me, something that was so important was for me to do this self-reflection peak moment exercise, and again, to do it multiple times, but then to also, as I mentioned earlier, to ask others to reflect back to me what they saw in peak moments of me. And it's important to do the self version first so that it just doesn't start to get colored by other people's experiences of you or of me. But together, it's really amazing data. And so I'm going to invite Rachel to go back to our slide deck. There we go. And as we move to the instructions around the reflected best self, it's really simple. And it's sending an email out to 10 to 12 people or more in your network. And I'd recommend you, for me, it was really helpful to ask friends and colleagues and people who've known me through different parts of my life to capture the different stages I've been through, but to ask them to send me 1 to 3 memories of me at my best. And this process was so formative for me because there's so many things that I couldn't see that I just get in my own way around. And so with that set of information, and everyone's got time right now, right? So it's such an act of generosity and love to be able to do that for someone. It really is a wonderful way to connect with people right now. And so from that, to start to map that and really see where is there commonalities in how people are seeing me? How is that related to what I see my own mission, and how is it different? And that together that can really be formative in developing a cohesive statement that resonates with us of what really brings us alive. And therefore, what can we bring into this world that is of meaning and of purpose to ourselves and to others. And so the invitation that I'd like to leave you with is around that. And again, this is something to sit with and answer on your own, but it's really around, how do we translate that into service at this time? And how do we translate the service into something that is really meaningful for us and that is nurturing to us right now, when perhaps we have a little more time on our hands, perhaps we don't, but we really need a distraction. And maybe it's the perfect time to start dabbling or going all in on what really is fulfilling to us. And how can that therefore nurture the global community that we're in at this time when we all need that nurture. So let's show the invitation. Thank you. So this is my ending slide. Again, feel free to take a screenshot of it. But let's imagine a world that's more resilient and connected as a result of this, and one where the best of who we are is brought forth to solve our greatest challenges. And then imagine you look back in 10 years. How do you want to remember yourself in this time? What's the impact of your efforts on others and on the world? And how did you apply your unique gifts to contribute to this new, resilient, and connected state of affairs? Thank you so much for spending the morning with us and for a little unconventional twist on Creative Mornings Talk. I've really enjoyed being with you.
Yay, Mike!
Yay, Mike!
Yay!
Thank you, Mike.
Mike,
Mike.
That's so early.